Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Grand Theft Auto 5 video, we're going to be talking about microtransactions and loot boxes. Everyone's favorite conversation, but it's been in the news and it's been in the media cycle lately for various games coming out with either controversial microtransactions or loot boxes. And Take-Two, the parent company of Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, and developer Rockstar Games have responded to the recent controversy surrounding loot boxes and microtransactions. So Take-Two president Karl Slatoff said the company doesn't view loot boxes as gambling. The executive said Take-Two's view is the same as what the Entertainment Software Association said earlier this year when it released a statement plainly stating that loot boxes are not gambling. He goes on to say, "We don't view that thing as gambling. Our view of it is the same as the ESA statement for the most part, so potential legislation is going to play its course." So as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there's been a lot of discussion about loot boxes of late, bubbling over in the wake of Battlefront 2 using them before significant changes were made. In China, the odds for loot boxes in a game called Overwatch and other titles are disclosed, and some lawmakers want something similar to happen in the United States. Now, Slatoff acknowledged the consumer feedback around loot boxes and microtransactions, but said as long as the transaction feels fair to the consumer around what they spend and what they get, there is no problem. He states, in terms of the consumer, the noise you hear in the market right now, it's all about content over delivering on content. It's about making sure you're focused on engagement, and I think that has been our strategy. That has been our focus. And as long as you keep your eye on that ball, you're going to be okay. The consumer's going to be really happy with what they get. Now, in Grand Theft Auto Online, it's been massively successful when it comes to the revenue it makes from microtransactions. In fact, the mode recently had its best quarter ever in terms of microtransaction revenue, which is a notable achievement considering the game launched over 4 years ago. Now, Slatoff went on to say that it's all about creating compelling content. If what it's for sale is compelling enough and priced appropriately, consumers will flock to it. He states, yeah, you can't force the consumer to do anything. You try your best to create the best experience you possibly can to drive engagement, and driving engagement creates value in the franchise. That's how it's always been and how it always will be. So I will leave this article in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. It's pretty interesting, and I agree and disagree in some of these situations. So let me start with where I agree. I agree with where Slatoff says that it really depends on the game in terms of the microtransactions and the loot boxes. So for example, in Battlefront 2, the loot boxes were not fair in terms of what you either had to get to acquire them or the real-life dollars you had to put forward in order to obtain a loot box. And building off of what Battlefront 2 did, their loot boxes were beyond cosmetic differences. They actually had an impact on gameplay, which kind of hovers closely to the pay-to-win strategy, which I am not a fan of at all. So that's where I agree with him. Battlefront 2 just didn't do the loot boxes and the microtransactions the right way. And to a degree, I feel like Grand Theft Auto Online is somewhere within that same boat. Obviously, we don't have loot boxes yet. We'll talk about that. But I'd feel like the microtransactions in terms of the shark card value is not worth it at all. In my opinion, $100 should get you more than $8 million in-game currency, but that's a little bit different than what we've seen in terms of loot boxes. Now, where I disagree is when he says he doesn't view it as gambling. I don't think there's a wrong or a right answer here. I think this is one of the truest gray areas in gaming, whether or not loot boxes are considered gambling or not. Because at the end of the day, if you can put real-life money for something like this, I guess you could view it as gambling if the loot boxes are a game of chance. But then again, there is so much gray area here that it's really hard to tell. What I want to shift and focus the rest of this video on is future Take-Two titles, and particularly Rockstar's titles, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead, stuff like that. Will we see loot boxes in future games like Grand Theft Auto 6, Red Dead Redemption 2, and even games farther down the line than that? I mean, the president of 2K, Strauss Zelnick, has even gone on the record saying that, you know, what they're doing, they're not even microtransactioning enough. They could be doing more. So would we see something more to Grand Theft Auto Online and Red Dead other than shark cards or whatever the equivalent they're going to be doing in Red Dead Redemption 2? And this kind of brings up the other point. could Rockstar introduce something like that inside of feature of the game? So one of the biggest things that players have been asking for a long time has been the casino. Now in online, the casino has been there since day one. It has this coming soon sign written on it. But obviously, if you guys play GTA Online, you know that it has not been updated. And a lot of people have assumed that the reason this is not in the game is because Rockstar, Take-Two Interactive view it as gambling, and it would be something that's pretty controversial. Now, while I agree it's controversial, from what President Karl Slatoff says, they probably wouldn't view it as gambling. And in a game like Red Dead Redemption, where we've already seen casino games like poker and blackjack being played, it wouldn't surprise me if something like this eventually happens down the line in Grand Theft Auto Online or in a future game like Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, if Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive see a way to monetize or optimize something like that, I don't see why they wouldn't. And keep in mind, when Grand Theft Auto Online came out, it was in 2013. Kind of before we've seen the loot box era start to pop up in really popular games like Overwatch and Rocket League. And I feel like games can do it well. For example, I play a lot of Rocket League, and the loot boxes in that game are for the most part pretty well done. They're all cosmetic items that don't have any impact on the gameplay. And the only way to get those boxes is to either trade with someone else, or you can play them and get them through doing various matches. So I'm not exactly sure how that would tie into Grand Theft Auto 5 or GTA Online or Rockstar, but I still think the same thing could eventually happen. And that's where I want to leave the discussion up to you guys. What do you think is going to happen with the future of Rockstar games like GTA and Red Dead? Do you think they will eventually see loot boxes? Do you think they will eventually see more microtransactions other than what we see with shark cards, which is basically just digital currency? I think that topic could be pretty controversial, and with the way the conversation of loot boxes and microtransactions are going right now, I'm really not sure what direction they would ultimately go in. But as I mentioned, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments section down below. Let me know what you think. I think this could be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be a good thing if they're able to implement cool features like a casino in the game that could smoothly implement loot boxes like this. But it could be a bad thing if that becomes the focus of the game, which is what I think Battlefront 2 eventually fell into that trap. So like I said, let me hear from you guys in the comments section down below. If you did go and enjoy this video though, a like rating would of course be awesome. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new or you like daily GTA 5 videos like this. With all the way guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.